Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Imtiaz Dharker's very famous poem, Blessing. This was written in 1989 and is about a moment in a slum just outside Mumbai where a community pipe of water bursts and everyone in the community, particularly the children, all celebrate. It's a poem about the incredible worth and value of water in a place where water is a real rarity. It is based on a slum in Dharavi outside Mumbai, which is where a lot of people from different places in India migrated to. It was an unofficial place, which is one of the reasons why water is so scarce. Imtiaz Dharker did live in Mumbai for a while, and she has actually been quoted talking about a time where she witnessed a water truck going by where a pipe burst and all of the children chasing after the truck. So she must have taken some inspiration in that. This video is going to have a little look at the content, obviously, language, structure and form, and should get you all ready for your exams. I'll just take this moment to say, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. It would be amazing for me to boost up my subscribers, but also you'll be able to get notifications of when all of the other videos are ready for you. Right, without further ado, let's get annotated.
In the title, one-word title, Blessing, we immediately see a metaphor being used, which is going to be extended throughout the entire poem. It's got obviously very religious connotations, and it is immediately telling us that the subject of the poem, which is of course water, has great worth. The thing about a blessing, though, is that blessings don't come all the time. It's about something being special because it's sort of unique, it's one-off. Let's start with the first stanza. The skin cracks like a pod. There never is enough water. Okay, so there's already a lot going on here. So we've got a simile. Imagine in your mind a dry seed pod. So easy to snap, very, very brittle. So that's the comparison being made. Note plosive sounds of cracks, which almost make it onomatopoeic. Imtiaz Dharker wants you to actually imagine the kind of the pain and suffering, because when your skin cracks, even you might have even just experienced it in winter, like just that tiny bit, it really hurts. Note the kind of universality of the skin rather than specifically naming a person. It's everyone in this area, in this slum in Bombay. It's all skin, it's all people. So it really is about that hardship again. Then we've got this sort of declarative sentence that's very, very straightforward and simplistic in tone. There never is enough water. Note the way that never comes first in this sentence rather than there is never enough water. It is there never is. So the emphasis is placed on want and need. It's the reason for the suffering is being given to us here. And so that sets up the tone of the poem. We know that water is going to be the main idea. Okay, moving on. Right, imagine the drip of it. So what we've got here in this imperative command, okay, Dharker is speaking directly to the reader here. So imagine, and then look how small it becomes. Imagine the drip of it. Yeah. Note again, we've got a sort of slightly onomatopoeic verb here. So we've got onomatopoeia, which is very much meant to be representing the solitary drip of water. And it's not just the onomatopoeia that does it. Look at the syllables. We are using largely monosyllabic words, aren't we, here, to represent again that singular drip. Echo in a tin mug. Again, this is going to emphasize the volume of the solitary dip. And again, you get this sort of sense of emptiness. You've got one little mug and one little drip. We've got a little bit of sibilance here, perhaps also representing the sound of the water. But then look at the juxtaposition, because if all of this is about the smallness of a drip, we've got this huge metaphor and personification here. So we've got personification, we've got metaphor. Basically, you know, water is God. So again, this is all about its massive significance to the people in this area. Massively significant, sorry, just making sure that my grammar is okay. But yeah, you've got this juxtaposition here between the smallness of the water splash and the power of a god, of what water can do. Okay, this stanza is explaining when something wondrous happens. In fact, it's explaining what the blessing is. So sometimes, this is not frequent, the sudden rush of fortune. Note the fact that this is a disjointed, or I should say fragmented sentence. Again, I think that's about how sudden and unpredictable it is. Again, once more, it's a sudden rush of fortune. We've got another metaphor here, demonstrating the worth of the water. And rush again suggests a flow, so a massive contrast to what came before. The municipal pipe bursts, silver crashes to the ground. So this is like a community pipe. Now, because they're in a slum, it's possible that either they don't get much access to the water, or it's perhaps rationed out. So this moment where the pipe bursts, it's this sudden presence of water in abundance. We've got another metaphor that suggests worth, an extension of this idea of fortune. Remembering, of course, that fortune can mean both luck and wealth. In this case, it's wealth. It crashes to the ground. So again, a suggestion of absolute abundance. And now we've got this idea of volume coming in, the volume of water. And the flow has found a roar of tongues. It's got lovely fricative alliteration there, echoing the sound of the water rushing. Sound of the water rushing, as opposed to the plosive sound that was very much about solitary drip. And the flow has found a roar of tongues. This is obviously a metaphor here. It's also very onomatopoeic once more. Another word that suggests volume. Okay, now this could also be representing the kind of desperation of the people in this moment. It's not just about the gathering force of the people, it's their need as well. Right, now we've got a little bit of caesura here, so we've got a shift, we've got a break. From the huts, a congregation. Okay, another religious metaphor. A congregation as in the people that attend church. And this blessing, this moment, is likened to a religious ceremony. Every man, woman, child. Note, lack of punctuation. You get this sense of almost like panic, chaos, as all the people flock and they butt in. So again, there's this sort of sense of frenzy. There's no order to this moment, with pots, brass, copper, aluminium, plastic buckets, frantic hands. So what we've got here, this is called asyndetic listing. You can just say listing if you wanted, but the asyndetic means there's no and, there's no connective. It's just a list without any ands or ors or anything like that. And so you get this sense of they are grabbing anything they can to collect the water. Because you've got to remember, is as much as this is very exciting, it's a blessing, they're getting water in abundance, they also need to save it. Yeah, they can't waste it. So that's why it actually becomes frantic hands. It's not just buckets and pots. They're actually sort of grabbing their hands and trying to kind of get the water like that. Notice again the way that the hands is personified. I do apologise for my coughing. And naked children screaming in the liquid sun. Now, the naked children, this could be about that kind of sense of poverty. It could also be about innocence, the fact that they're naked and it's their youth. They're screaming in the liquid sun. Now, this is excitement. Yeah, this isn't pain, this is excitement. Again, that backs up the idea of it being their innocence or youth. They're screaming in the liquid sun. Two different interpretations. It could mean the water, and that could be about either it having heated up, because obviously it's been in a pipe and we're probably in like 40-degree heat Celsius. But it could also be that water is being compared to the sun in a metaphor, which reminds us of its life-giving aspects. So it's either that, or it could be in the extreme heat, that the sun is like a pool of liquid lava. You know, it's either or a bit of both. Their highlights polished to perfection. This is a confusing line. Quite a few people, there are a couple of different interpretations. I think that the highlights is where the sun bounces off the angles of their skin. I think this is like their cheekbones, which would therefore mean it would be another reference to their poverty, because their bones are accented, and it's polished to perfection. Note that place of alliteration, because you've got the sun bouncing off it, giving it a gleam. Or you could say that the water is almost cleaning them, polishing them. Okay, so we've got the highlights polished to perfection. Flashing light, I think that is the shine of the water crashing. But note the word, or the verb I should say, flashing, which again reminds us that it's temporary. And if this is flashing light, meaning the shine of the water, it also ties into the idea of the water being described as liquid sun. It's light-giving as well. As the blessing sings over their small bones. So we've got the repetition of the metaphor from the title, with a little bit of personification here as well. And again, notice there's a sort of sense of joy here. Again, it makes you think of being in a congregation, a church, all singing together. It's this excitement. That's what the water is doing. But back to reality, we are once again reminded of their poverty, because it is their small bones. It's the children that are having this kind of moment of excitement. But the reality is their life is going to go back to suffering and poverty and lack of water once more. Okay, so much to talk about in that poem. It's a really good one to write on because there's just so much to say. We do need to talk about form, as always, so I'll pop that over here. Now, there's no mistaking that this is in free verse, absolutely. And we've got a real range of stanza length. And if you think about it, look at the shifting stanza length. So, short stanza here, meaning no water. Okay, juxtaposed with long stanza here, meaning abundance of water. That's clever, isn't it? Well done, Imtiaz Dharker. So yeah, so the stanza length represents the amount of water that is being described in the poem. You also have, just going back to my form box, a lot of enjambment again, particularly in this section here. And I think this is again meant to represent that flow of water. Great. That's it from me on that one. I think that will do us nicely. That should give you enough for your revision. I hope that helped. If you've got any questions or you've got any thoughts about the poem that I haven't covered, then do just whack them in the comments and we can have a chinwag about it. Otherwise, if this is revision for your iGCSE Edexcel poetry paper, the very, very best of luck to you guys. Happy revising.